Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. This time, the rules of acquisition. Yeah, it's Deep Space Nine. Finally, they're all going to be revealed. All the rules of acquisition here on It's All Been Trucked Before. Hey, another way to figure out, or maybe your rules of acquisition, our rules of acquisition. We just added a bunch of, we've shaken up the tiers on our Patreon.com, our Patreon, for our Patreon members. We're trying to get new ones. This is a good time to jump in, guys and gals. Everybody, don't want to exclude anyone. Patreon.com/IABD. Come become a Patreon member. Get all the bonus stuff. We're trying to figure out our bonus episodes from when we wrap up these two seasons. In the meantime, think about that as you think. Listen to us talk about the rules of acquisition on It's All Been Trucked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trucked Before. Your regular hosts are here.
This is Steven.
And the prematurely canceled Keith.
Jimmy Jerome. And we're back with... Sorry.
Megan,
I apologize, Megan. I did not include you in the regular host because this is your third episode. But anyway, we're here to talk Deep Space Nine, rules of acquisition, first impressions.
Well, I mean, it's always exciting for me when I see when it's going to be like a Ferengi heavy episode. And there's already, again, deepening the mythos of one of those newer feeling species.
Ferengi, excited for Ferengi on Deep Space Nine, not excited for Ferengi on Next Gen.
Both, actually.
Really? Because the Ferengi on Next Gen usually suck.
I mean, it's not quite consistent in some ways, obviously, but it's certainly not like the introduction. I mean, they've clearly moved on from there. They've communicated. I mean, it seemed consistent with the behavior, but we don't really get the characterization we get with a Quark, because that's why he's there. He's supposed to be different. He's supposed to give us a different window into things.
Sure.
Yeah, jumping off that. Yeah, I thought it was another fun Ferengi episode. While Sean's there, the whole panel was a lot of fun. The whole episode was a lot of fun, and like 40 minutes, well, I guess 35 minutes in, I'm like, we really haven't seen much of the regular crew other than Dax, really, who was also great. And I was like, you know what? I'm completely fine with this. I don't care.
They gave Dax something to do.
Yeah.
Actually developed her. Yeah.
my first impression was there's a lot of ear hair in this.
Sorry.
When you get to the older Ferengi, that is a problem.
No, it's not a problem. Clearly, it's something should be brushed.
Oh, I thought that you were saying that that's something you prefer.
Nice. Hey. No.
Oh, God. Wow. That wasn't even my intention.
Not at all. The ear hair at first was distracting, and then it was brushed. And I thought, oh, well, that's brilliant. Ear hair is to be respected.
It was a nice touch from the production standpoint.
I wish that we're so on this planet as well, but
you have your Little Pony style ear hair brush.
Got no problems.
I liked it. I didn't think it was fully consistent of what comes later, but that happens a lot with early series episodes. There was one really big thing they put in very subtly, which I thought was awesome, and we'll talk about that when we get to it.
Yeah,
but
I think I know what it is.
I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I wouldn't say it did what Keith did behind him there for the Patreon viewers, but it was very enjoyable.
Hung the moon.
Yes.
So we begin the episode with our dear buddy Morn, who I have said I get excited every time I see him, passed out on the promenade and just wanting to get back into Quark's bar to drink, because apparently all he does these days, he must be retired and he's living off his retirement savings. He just drinks, passes out, drinks again.
He's essentially Space Otis or Space Norm, I guess. So.
Yeah.
Yes, he's inspired by Norm from Cheers. Yes,
oh God, it's an anagram, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Morn. God.
Mystery salt.
We probably mentioned that before and I forgot.
We have.
Okay. Yeah.
Me too.
Odo's words to him, though, indicate this is a regular situation, but also Odo's not all that bothered by it. So, but why does the promenade ever close? Why does Quark's bar ever close? You'd think on a space station like this, it would be more of a 24-hour establishment, or does Quark just close when he feels like it?
You have to be able to clean. Yeah.
There's that. There's probably staffing issues, and we probably wouldn't trust people to run the place 24/7 without him there. Certainly not at this point.
Space bar laws that you can't be open from this time to this time.
And it would also create demand.
I was thinking of being in a Vegas type thing. So, I mean, if I'm in a casino and the cleaners are coming through, I'm either very desperate or doing very well. One or the other.
Well, the Bajorans are very religious people, so maybe they have rules that other star bases wouldn't have. Or maybe this is actually just early morning, not late night. Who knows? because a bar wouldn't need to be well, then morning's relative. We're in space, whatever.
Well, yeah, I guess it's like Mike's bar here in Columbus. It's open. It's one of those 6 a.m. bars.
Mm.
And more.
Good to know. What was that? Mike's? What's the address? No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
So the Ferengi are in the bar, even though it's closed, playing cards. They're playing Tongo, which is one of the regular games they talk about, which are round cards, which are cool. I like the round playing card.
Yeah.
And Quark's got his hand on Dax's thigh because, that's Quark. He is always lusting after Dax. But
well, set up too, for the they laid on thick for the new audience to say this is a very sexist species, by the way, and culture.
Thick.
And that brings me to one of my inconsistencies with later. Rom, of all people, is the one screaming about sexism. He's like the least sexist of the Ferengi as we get to know him. At the moment, though, he's very traditional, which does not gel with the Rom we meet later. It makes me wonder if the romance he enters into changes him, or his perspective, or if this is posing to try to look good in front of his brother. Either way, I didn't take it all that seriously when it comes out of Rom's mouth as I would out of most Ferengi's mouth.
I was about to say that, they do that for Klingons too. Sometimes if it's going to be a Klingon heavy episode, we got to lean into this other thing to set up the culture. But you could easily retcon it and say something like that if you wanted to say that he's just wanted to be impressive, which is also setting up the subplot for him feeling threatened.
I thought maybe Rom
carried over
learned a lesson in this episode, and that's why. I thought maybe Rom learned a lesson in this episode, and that's why later he's become enlightened.
Sure doesn't seem like he learned anything this episode. If anything, Quark should have. But Quark,
later he reflected back on.
Okay.
I think. We're jumping ahead. I don't want to get there yet. Yeah.
I did like the Dax's characterization, though, of where they mentioned that Curzon was a great Tongo player, but Jadzia is even better, and her enjoyment of hanging around the Ferengis. I feel like this may be the first episode we really start to develop who Dax is as a character, and that is she's non-judgmental. She's lots of fun. I like Dax a lot, and I felt this was classic Dax of the way she will be portrayed moving forward.
Daxic?
And not something we got much of in season 1.
Yeah. Thank you, Megan. Maybe Stephen will like that one eventually.
When I hear.
Yeah.
There's this new Ferengi waiter named Pell, played by, and this is a spoiler, Helene Udy, best known for Dr. Quinn Medicine Woman, did 73 episodes. My Bloody Valentine, The Dead Zone, the movie, and this one episode of Deep Space Nine, according to her IMDb. She actually has 99 acting credits. So the fact that this one guest spot tops her known for list is interesting and impressive, but also I could see where this was a memorable role for her, even though it was just a one-off, unfortunately.
Yeah. This is one of those cases where, I'm usually fortunate enough to be able to put out of my head whatever you say the synopsis is going to be for the next week. I had done that here, but you're coming into the Paramount app. It's right there. That synopsis. And I saw female Ferengi. It's like, okay, I click through, see the rest of the sentence and go, it would have been so great if I hadn't even thought about it. But
it seems pretty obvious it's a woman immediately, but if you're not thinking about it at all, it may not be so obvious. Whereas if you know something's going to be up with the Ferengi, then you're immediately like, okay, if something's up, it's that character's a woman. Oh wait, whatever.
Maybe
if your heckles are raised at all, it's obvious. But Pell has these sand peas that'll make you thirsty, as she demonstrates to Quark, which is, as much as I hate it from a personal standpoint, for a Ferengi, a marketing tactic, it seems pretty brilliant, unfortunately, to put those out instead of beer nuts.
Oh, man. Never thought of that.
Oh, yeah, they're space beer nuts.
Why that? Wow, yeah.
I like how Quark just popped them in his mouth without even knowing what they were.
Wow.
I mean, he doesn't trust his employees normally, but this particular one, I think you could explain that away by there's an immediate chemistry between the two of them. And of course, it helps that Pell is a huge suck up, much more so than Rom usually is, which is already catches Quark's attention, flattering Quark. And that's when they bring up the rules of acquisition. And they mention at this point, there's 285. Yeah. Got memory alpha. I believe it mentions like in Kirk's time, there were a lot less. I assume in the future, there's a lot more. So it's not a set document like the Bible that doesn't change for 2,000 years. It's an evolving document.
That's an interesting example to use.
If it's something that's so central to their culture, and their belief system. That's where I was thinking. Like
Yeah.
the fact that it's a living document is interesting to me because I feel like when you build your culture around the document, I mean, we can't change the Second Amendment or whatever.
Yeah, like a
even though it's
constitution or
250
something.
years old.
Well,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, Jimmy, you answered exactly the question that was next on my notes, which was, is it the Bible or is it like law books or the Constitution? And
Less sacred
it's
than
like
either.
the Constitution. You know, the Constitution continues to evolve. That's for sure.
Or you just
Devolve.
pretend it says something it doesn't say, such as the way they interpret the Second Amendment these days.
Indeed.
But anyway,
Well, I mean, that's the way I interpret the Bible. So
the
It's like you could
Yeah.
almost make a profession out of people who have to interpret things like that.
So Zek calls Quark on the secret bat line, hot red phone, whatever. Secret straight line from the Grand Negus of all the Ferengi people to Quark. You'd think that must be written into like Ferengi law, right? That you have to have a special ringtone whenever the president calls so that you can answer. I feel like the Grand Negus is a lot more hands-on than most global leaders with some of the businesses.
We will certainly see that later.
yes. Mm,
Okay, yes.
Sorry.
And Zek says he wants Quark to be his chief negotiator, which is blowing smoke, because the last time we had Zek come to Quark, Zek was trying to get one over on Quark. So already I'm thinking, well, what's his game? Which becomes apparent. But the way Zek presents it is, Quark, you're right here by the Gamma Quadrant. You can be my lead negotiator in the Gamma Quadrant. Which
Makes sense anyway, though.
I bought it at first, and then when he changed the order or whatever from 10 things of wine, 10 vats of wine to
10,000 to 100,000.
Yeah. I was like, no, this is all a facade.
And Zek, man, he's extra gross in this episode, huffing his beetle snuff and all that kinds of crap. But man, does he lay it on thick in Sisko's office. So he's like, Ferengi have a reputation of being honest and reliable and all that. I'm like, yeah, that's the reputation you try to sell until people get to know you, perhaps. I could use more of Kira threatening Zek. That's just lovely and should happen constantly until she beats the crap out of him, as she should have. Doesn't matter if he's a planetary leader. That could be a whole diplomatic incident. That could have been the episode. That might have been more interesting.
He was complimenting her, so
I think Zek let Sisko win the negotiation, right? With the free gift. Like, I feel like Zek led them into this so that they would feel like they're winning.
Perhaps.
Whereas I think that was his plan all along. It just seemed like he was trying to play them.
yeah.
And I don't think he fooled Sisko or Kira, but I think they played the game to get what they wanted.
Yeah, and I wrote that, I think I mentioned this last time that Zek was on, but Wallace Shawn just seems like he was put on Earth to play a Ferengi. And
He seems to have a lot of
every word
fun.
He says is total nonsense and BS. It's like, I can listen to that.
Mm.
Maybe not every week, but
So Pell warns Quark that Zek's up to something, which should have been obvious, but for some reason isn't to Quark. And so Quark makes Pell his consultant and decides to give him 20% of the profits, which her, but him, at this point, we're calling her a him,
Right.
in order to be his consultant. That seems like a big consultant fee, doesn't it? But I guess Quark stands to make so much money here, it doesn't really matter.
I think Pell is, I mean, from the standpoint of someone who probably wouldn't even know that much about the series, it seems apparent that Pell is competent or unusually competent. Quark is, I think they kind of weakened Quark to an extent to even sell that further. They maybe a little bit more distracted, or again, you can explain those things away, but the reactions to what was, that kind of Data Spock citing of exact Starfleet regulation type things, it's like, oh, this person really knows their stuff,
Yeah, Quark's never been an A-level Ferengi. Like, he's probably C+ at best in terms of capitalism skills, in terms of like, he's running a bar on a station that was supposed to be a dead-end hole in the wall that only by happenstance is successful. So I always took Quark as kind of a failed businessman in a lot of ways, but I do feel like he's probably a little bit more savvy than they portray him in this episode.
Yes.
Then Pell goes to a room and they do the big reveal, in case you didn't realize. I did not realize that Ferengi females had smaller ears, but that's kind of a cool thing because the boobs would have sold it enough, right? When she unwraps the top. But the choosing to do a prosthetic over the prosthetic, the hat on the hat,
Yes.
so to speak, really did, like, in this case, the hat on the hat worked really well. I liked it. I guess that gave them evidence later on for Rom to find, and that's why the boobs wouldn't have been enough. Although you could have had like perfume or something stupid.
He could have found her boobs.
Extra sexist.
No, see, Megan was saying that he could have found her falsies or something.
Right.
Or, wait, that wouldn't work.
I meant he could have just found her boobs. Oh, what? No.
Accidentally walked into them.
But
blind.
Oh, the anime thing.
Why a variety of ears though?
There were only 2 sets. I thought they were the same in case something happened to one.
Yeah, I think it was like a backup set.
Backup ear.
Well, getting a lobe job is a huge thing in the Ferengi community, and sometimes it's like, they're just so fake.
Yeah. So, do you get those on a site for like maybe male Ferengi that feel like they don't have a large enough?
Oh wow!
Lobe?
Yeah.
Like, is that where they
could be like a trial set?
Yeah.
I like your theory, Megan. That does blow apart the fact that Rom figured out she was a girl that she was a woman as soon as he found them, because it could just be a man with smaller ears trying to compensate.
Right.
Yeah.
But I think that as a device, I mean, you already pointed out why that would be useful for the reveal and for Rom to find it, but it will also kind of sell the level of deception on anyway. I mean, so something probably wouldn't even occur to them. This is like such a biological fact is from their perspective that it wouldn't even occur to them that this would not be a male, is my point. As opposed to taping down breasts or whatever, it's just
right. So at this point, we're introduced to the Dosi, whatever. I call them the clowns because they look like clown face paint, and that's clearly face paint because their other body, the body is not fully adorned in that color.
I had them as Oompa Loompas on steroids, or alternatively, this is the Seinfeld part of the episode, Putty, face painter, gotta support the team. So yeah, they were
NFL fan. I would buy that.
Odd.
To me, they just kind of had this suspender people vibe for me, just suspendery.
I was thinking like alt lifestyle Klingons, essentially. This the like emo or goth Klingons.
Nice. Yeah, the introduction of them by throwing someone out of the ship into the hallway
That's
is just
the best way to
everything.
enter a room.
Tells you everything you need to know.
Yeah,
which is great. And then we have the 2 lead negotiators. The one is Inglatu, played by Brian Thompson, best known for Cobra, Mortal Kombat Annihilation, The Terminator, where he played a punk, and Dragonheart. He has 104 acting credits. He recently did an episode of The Orville. Well, I guess not recently, 2017. That was 5 years ago by now. But he was in a season 1 episode of The Orville. So a little other... He did 3 episodes of Star Trek Enterprise as an admiral. He'll be in another episode of Deep Space Nine in season 4 as a different character, and he will be a Klingon helmsman in the movie Star Trek Generations. So, also played this second officer Clag in the Next Generation episode where Riker was the exchange student in A Matter of Honor, where Riker was on the Klingon ship. He was the second officer. Okay. So that was a very memorable character as well. Probably more memorable than this one. But he's the main one, and then there's Zeri, played by Amelia Crowe, who doesn't even have a picture at IMDb, so why does it matter? No, this is the last of her 12 credits. She's best known for Scarface, where she's credited as Woman at Babylon Club. So, yeah, not a lot of credits there, but they're the 2 negotiators, and they're super mad that Zek sent his minion instead of meeting them. Take it as an insult immediately, which you could argue is, again, Zek setting Quark up for failure, though you'd think Zek would actually want to succeed here, even though he's okay with failure.
Yeah, because they want to get rich off the Gamma Quadrant, right? Is that the whole plan?
So then we get the Zek again. He sends Kira a gift.
Oh, wait. I was going to say, I think that he was sending Quark because he doesn't want his hands dirty at this point.
Right, but then I would think he'd send a more competent Ferengi, because clearly Zek doesn't have a high opinion of Quark.
Maybe he's afraid of succeeding. Do you ever think of that?
That's true. He could be afraid. He could have a complex.
Yeah.
I mean, he is getting old. He could be missing a step, too. We know he only has a few more years till retirement. So, we're getting there.
Getting too old for this stuff.
So Zek sends Kira the gift. And this is where we find out that Dax actually admires them. And I love Kira and Dax's friendship as it's developed so far. I love even more this scene of Kira just not understanding Dax's preference. And I appreciate that, because Next Gen, original series, all the characters have to get along. That was Gene Roddenberry's thing. And to demonstrate such different worldviews between Kira and Dax was delightful. as well as I just like the two of those characters. Dax then notices Pell shortly thereafter, and Dax actually loves Quark. Like, I think Dax expresses like she has a fondness for Quark, which is cool. I like that element that even though she's not interested in his advances, she enjoys his company. But then it's very clear Dax thinks this is a gay Ferengi, which would have been a very different episode. And,
Interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, because Dax clearly didn't know it was a woman. When Pell was like, "Oh, you know I'm a woman." Oh, no, I didn't know that. Like, I just knew you were in love with Quark.
Pell gave that up real quick too. To go to such efforts, just was like all of a sudden, hey, guess what? Oops.
It had to move the plot along.
Yeah.
Right.
No, I think because Dax seems so wise and it seems so obvious that Dax had figured it out.
Well, yeah, but
me didn't bother me. But
I think by this time, Pell was becoming overburdened with the secret as well, and they clearly wanted a device. They wanted to be able to express it to someone they're about to explode. So
yeah, I can't help but wish we had the gay Ferengi episode though. Instead, in the 90s, they were so tiptoeing around homosexuality. We'll get an episode DS9 later that deals with it a little more directly, but it's just not something they're going to cover at this era of the show, unfortunately.
That gets to my alternate episode, although really it's just an alternate titling of the episode. Quark or Quarktoria or Quarkle, because it was essentially Victor Victoria Oriental kind of a thing.
But what would be Pell's name though?
Pell must be an androgynous name because we never get corrected with a second name after Pell's gender is exposed.
Oh, you're right. Yeah.
And nobody seems surprised. Like, that's not like, oh, that's a girl's name or anything. Or maybe I was going to say maybe for the Ferengi, gender's not so binary, but clearly it is, unfortunately.
Or maybe it just didn't matter enough to give their real name, I guess, too. It's
could be
probably too complicated for,
I love Zek's prepositioning Kira that they'll have a wild, passionate romance. I don't know why it was funny. I mean, he's so inappropriate. I hate that he's hitting on her. I hate that he's treating her like that. And yet the way I can't help but laugh with the way Wallace Shawn delivers it.
Wait, I need to...
the way that Commander Sisko let that butt slap go, I mean, do you think that maybe he should have stepped up a little bit?
Absolutely.
So
he needs to create a safe work environment.
Yes. I think so. But, it's so funny. They say, like, I wouldn't turn my back on him for a second. It's like, you didn't even need to. You will find your butt.
To give a counter argument, even though I completely agree Sisko needs to create the safe work environment, don't you think if Sisko ever actually stepped up to protect Kira from something as minor as that, Kira might bite his head off in retaliation?
Yeah, but that's, again, more fun, right? More interesting. Yeah,
absolutely. I think Sisko has really good judgment, and he just knew this was a situation that Kira handled it herself. But you're right. Yeah. It absolutely needs to create the good work environment.
Well, I mean, do you think that that's something that would even have to come up in the and the HR type things enough for this to be practice?
Like your training.
Right, because I mean, supposedly, they keep telling us this with words that these kinds of attitudes weren't even on their radar anymore.
Well, even Starfleet, when you're just surrounded by other Starfleeters. Now we're on a station with aliens.
Well, no, my point is the idea of sexism isn't something that would probably have to be overtrained to even address that type of harassment. And in the future, supposedly, again.
So Quark fails at his negotiations. He's just going to Zek and he's like, I failed. And then Pell's the one who has to be like, no, we're not going to fail. We're going to go after him. Which at this point, Quark just really seems like a terrible businessman, doesn't he? Not even try.
I think he seems terrible at everything. At this point,
up his incompetence so much in this episode.
Yeah,
is this the scene where he's taking his shoes off in the really weird way? It was the weirdest way. It was like Quark was standing over Zek, taking his shoes off. No, that was earlier.
I would taking the boots off. Yeah,
taking his shoes off in the weirdest way. You want to talk about tiptoeing around a subject? Zek did.
That's the romance we need, right? Quark's in love with Zek.
And he did all his acting right to his rear end.
Yeah,
it took him forever to take those shoes off.
Zek's a total Harvey Weinstein. He makes everybody take his shoes off that way.
Just don't turn your back on him for 1 second, which then she does later.
Yeah.
Pell convinces Zek to let she and Quark take Zek's personal ship. Isn't that really tiny for the president of an entire species? Like, the Ferenginar is not a small planet. Why is Zek's shuttle so tiny? Where's his security force? Where's his bodyguard? I mean, Mayardu's pretty impressive as a bodyguard, but you'd still think you'd have a couple like more spy type bodyguards hiding out, checking things over. I don't know.
They would
Well,
they would be
They're so
frugal.
good at it that
Yeah,
you can't see
frugal.
them.
Yeah.
Oh, that's true. Cheap.
Yeah, cutting. He might be skimming up the top for the orders of things, essentially for and that private security force would be traveling in a different ship anyway, probably even more on incognito and just kind of spying that way.
I would think though that for his reputation, he should have a really big, glamorous, gold-plated ship.
Oh, you beat me to it.
Probably in the shape of a T. Oh no, it would be a
Yeah.
Z for him, but you
Yeah.
know. And then he could call it the Mar-a-Lago.
Oh God.
He's just not interested in impressing anybody.
Sure, that definitely came
That
across when we were
totally.
sitting on Kira.
Absolutely.
He's just not classy enough.
He likes to be a little bit humble so he can humble brag.
Yeah.
Right. As Quark and Pell travel together, this is where her character, for me, gets a little uneven because supposedly she has disguised herself as a man to participate in society and earn profit and try to work her way up. But all of a sudden, she's disappointed. Quark's only talking about profit, and she's now putting romance above profit. And is that... I mean, I can think of a number of explanations, like maybe this is the first time she's in love, and sometimes new love lets you override your logic sense. But they really play it very sexist. Like, oh, she's a woman, so of course she's interested in romance instead of business, which,
Well,
yeah.
I feel like that makes more sense that it was just a writer faux pas of sorts, because I also kind of found that like Dax is wanting to play with the boys or actually, playing in the big boys club is one of those, well, I'm not like other girls kind of character moments,
yeah.
which it is what it is, but it kind of felt like that kind of writing is like, well, I can just hang with the boys instead of let's abolish the boys club so that we can all play. It's not just about us being able to play in the boys club. It's about the boys club going away. So it's an everybody club
well, we need we need another scene with maybe
in
Dax
space.
smoking a cigar in a strip club or something with the boys, that kind of thing.
Sure.
That's the kind of writing that was there for me.
Interestingly, this is a story by a woman writer, but then it was teleplayed by
Aha.
Well, women can be sexist too.
No.
absolutely. But I mean,
No, you're being reverse sexist, Megan.
Nah, I'm being equally
But-
sexist.
but that begs the
No,
question:
you're not being sexist at all. Oh, sorry.
Did Hilary Bader write the story this way, or did Ira Stephen Bear add in those sexist layers? I don't know. Because he
Well,
did the teleplay. Hilary Bader, who we've talked about a bunch of times, she's written a bunch of episodes. So
Or maybe at that point the conversation hadn't gone that route so that we could completely understand the situation and write in a different way. Maybe.
I thought we might pass the Bechtel test, and that was immediately destroyed.
Yay.
Yeah, they immediately it's like, oh, I'm in love or whatever. Let's talk about how much I love Quark or whatever. And then I thought, well, maybe when they talk to Kira, nope.
the Kira Dax conversation, well, that was still talking about Zach hitting on her, so maybe not.
Yeah.
We get a shot of the bar, and there's Pac-Leds at the bar. Did you see him in the background?
Oh no.
They were, when Rom was getting all upset about Pell turning Quark's head, there were Pac-Leds being served at the bar. I was like, that's awesome. Reuse the next
Never
generation
caught that.
costumes. That's the scene where Rom's talking to Odo, and Odo's like, well, if I had a brother, and all that, which is a fun. Odo's in this so little, but it was such a good Odo scene.
Indeed.
That, of course, leads to Rom ransacking Pell's quarters. You check the whole quarters, but you don't look under the bed.
That was my thought. You just
Right.
wanted to go through their things.
Yeah.
Right? Like, you'd think the bed would be the first place you'd check, but maybe in the 24th century, a lot of beds don't actually have any place you can put underneath.
Beat me to it again. It could be. It's no. Actually, if you think about it, it might be so low tech that they wouldn't even consider some things like that anymore. I mean,
Yeah, you go into the room and you think there's got to be a clever thing
Right.
hidden somewhere. And it's really just simple.
Yeah.
Hiding in plain sight. A box of ears.
this is a sinister box of ears. It's of the regular kind.
In the Gamma Quadrant, Quark makes a scene by throwing a barrel of, I assume that's the Tullaberry wine, right? That they're all drinking?
I thought it was some kind of makeshift water, like fountain, and then it's just destroyed public property.
Kool-Aid. But it gets results because the guy's like, I'll make a deal with you, but I can only give you 10,000.
Why did it get his attention? Why did he say, yes, you have thrown this plastic tub that looks like a gas can?
I'm guessing because they're
Now
so
I
violent.
sell sign.
Yeah,
They're so violent, they were just looking for a spine.
Yeah, I was gonna. Yeah, we kind of rushed past that during the negotiations, but it was clear. At least I thought it was clear that they were again like the emo Klingon type thing. We've seen that example a few times in TNG, where you have an aggressive species or an aggressive culture, I should say, and they only seem to respect similar aggression or standing up for yourself in a certain way. We saw Wesley do that in like that Academy episode. The thing where was it Riker's hunch where they needed to do or was it Picard's or Riker's hunch? Was it like maybe a few episodes back where they were doing the negotiations? And I'm talking about the aliens who kept accusing them of trying to be selfish and weren't understanding and were mirroring them, that thing. Well, there are a couple of things like that, actually. Anyway, my point is, yeah, I think they were trying to telegraph that during the negotiation, that they weren't really responding to Quark because he was trying to be too amenable. But Pell, when she kept kind of bowing up and shouting back and insisting on their own importance, they started to calm down and take them seriously. So, but I don't know if we missed something where Pell advised him to do that or if he just finally figured it out himself. But
I was assuming he figured it out himself because they were clear with showing Pell every other time she influenced him.
Yeah.
Pell and Quark almost share a bed, but of course then Pell gets really weird about it. Quark doesn't understand why, so in answer she jumps him and tries to make out with him.
It was the wine.
It was definitely a bit cringy the way it all went down. Definitely first kiss, right? For her first romance.
Maybe.
Seemed like it. Then that's when the female alien, whatever they're called, the female Dosi comes in and says, yeah, Zek's messing with you. There's not 100,000 barrels on this entire planet, which is when you know for sure that Pell's been right this whole time, even though, yeah, pretty figured. But this is the part of the episode that's very interesting because she's like, yeah, you need to talk to the Dominion. They're the ones with all the stuff. Yeah. And it's like, so I know, Steven, this is your first time watching DS9. Are you familiar with the Dominion at all, or was this just a throwaway line to you?
There was something I read in my research that started to allude to it, and in Keith fashion, I stopped reading immediately.
Good job.
Said,
yeah.
Oh, the Dominion, they'll be blah, blah, blah. So I do know more to come, and there was somebody who was like, yeah, it kind of feels like this whole episode was just to set that up, essentially. But
I know more than... Oh, sorry. I was going to say, I already know more than I wish I did. But at the same time, I started thinking about this today. It's sort of like when I'm watching comic book movies anymore, or even when I first started. I don't know as much as I think I do, but God, the point is you know that there are certain arcs that you should be coming. You've heard of these characters in some way or another, and you get excited when they start dropping these little hints like that. Oh my God, that means that they're finally going to get to this thing. And then I'm trying to see it that when it kind of feels exciting that they're building it up now. So, yeah.
And I have no clue what the Dominion is. I just assume.
Oh, you don't either? Nice.
No.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm ready for the ride.
I will not go into it because I don't want to spoil for anybody, but they are a huge, if you're going to write one sentence about what the show's about, they're part of it. So it's like this little hint of this is how they're first mentioned in the series and introduced is really cool that they would just drop it as a throwaway line and long before we ever see them.
Oh my God. That's what the D in DS9 stands for, isn't it? Dominion Shuttle right now. No,
Yeah.
DEEP is actually an acronym for something else. Dominion.
I gotta take my earbuds out.
No, I'm not gonna tell anything about him. But
actually, that's what the D in DC Fontana stands for, is Dominion.
oh, there you go.
There it is the whole time.
That's why it starts with a D.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just give him credit for that. I mean, if you're talking comic books movies, if they mention Thanos, people that read the comic books are gonna be like, Thanos, oh, we know who that is.
Exactly.
But if you're watching this for the first time when it's originally airing, nobody would have a clue who the Dominion was. This is purely the writers like dropping a breadcrumb that they can follow up on later. In a way the next generation would have never done. So DS9 is awesome in that regard. I'm sure by this point they were already starting to plan the beginnings of the Dominion story, but nice introduction. Quark just pretends the kiss didn't happen. I guess that's one way to get past it, which given the way their society runs and everything, I guess it's actually kind of generous of him to pretend it didn't happen in a way.
When the scene started, I was like, oh, he's taking it in stride, just acting normal, like nothing happened. Then he's like, no, what? No, it never happened. Oh, okay. Never happened.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it was a little less homophobic than I expected, but more homophobic than I wanted. if that
Right.
makes sense.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty standard
Mhm.
homophobia in the sense of like, it's that way that sort of plays out. I've even heard in normal things these days, as far as when you have the, not even necessarily closeted, maybe self-denying person in that relationship who is going to, just, what are you talking about? I don't, nothing, kind of thing. Denial.
I really appreciated the way Rob exposed that she was a woman and Quark fainted. Because at that point, Quark still didn't know she was a woman. Just the happening it like in the background without hearing the words and just seeing Quark fall was great. It was so fun.
Well,
Rom wants retribution against Pell for what she did, and Quark bribes Rom with his entire bar to protect her. So clearly he's interested in her at this point, right? Either that or just values her that much as a business consultant.
well, and his whole attraction to her or him is very. I haven't seen Yentl. I've only sung the songs, but I know Victor Victoria is very much in that way. And just one of the guys for sure. That's the whole thing. Is
right.
He's questioning himself. Although I don't know why she's standing there shirtless. So I don't know why he's questioning it.
I don't think that it's necessarily Quark's feelings for Pell at this point, as much as it's just standard self-preservation. We see demonstrated at the end of the episode. That was his leverage point. He would have been ruined. I mean, he wasn't exaggerating about that. That was just their society was so intolerant that he didn't even have the option of doing something like that. And he able to get them all out of it because of that, because they were able to entangle Zek, the Grand Negus in his own logic. Then
I liked when Quark turned that back on him.
Mm-hmm.
Like you saw it coming from a mile away, but using his words against him 3 sentences later was a wonderful conclusion there.
Do you think he would have been more accepting of Pell if she'd been naked like other Ferengi women?
Yes.
Okay.
The fact that she's wearing clothes is one of the things that's very offensive to Quark and Zek and Rom, which we'll hear more about down the road, because while Pell unfortunately does not return, there are other female Ferengi that show up in this series. So
okay, well, that's my next question. Short of going to Pornhub, do we see naked Ferengi women?
No.
Okay.
No, this is still a network television show. It's not a streaming Paramount Plus.
Okay, yeah.
We're only going to see women either with strategic items placed in front of them or other women that are rebelling and wearing clothes when they're not supposed to be. Okay, so we're going to see a lot of strategically designed Ferengi vases and so forth. While they're playing Soul Bossa Nova. To Austin Powers. Never. Yeah, I just got that. To Stephen's question too, though, they did demonstrate something, because of what Quark said. I mean, they were thinking about it in the way of what he said was that she wouldn't be satisfied with their relationship because of what he would want. I mean, he even said it would bother me. Yeah, he's a traditional Ferengi.
Yes. Sure. And that they gave you that little bit of heartbreak on her face too, which was nice. Just although he lusts after Dax, who's kind of the opposite of that, right? Right. Yes, but I know it's. Is it one of those things where he feels he's attracted to the idea of like conquering Dax and making her stay naked in his quarters all the time? Perhaps.
Or an intellectual stimulation kind of relationship.
Right.
And then other.
Yeah, I don't know.
It can happen. I know.
I've read about this in science journals.
Yeah.
I think what would make it different is if, let's say, somehow Dax were to just fall in love with Quark for whatever, how you want to do it. I think in their culture they wouldn't expect a humanoid woman to like a human appearing woman to follow those rules, but a Ferengi relationship would have to be traditional. Otherwise, it would raise too many kinds of. In other words, it's like their culture would probably be able to write that off as some sort of exoticism, as opposed to.
Well, and isn't Quark chasing Dax like a dog chasing a car?
That too.
Would he know
what to do if he catches her?
Yeah.
I mean,
To respond to Keith's thing about if they marry a non-Ferengi, do the rules apply? I'm pretty sure they do, but we will get a Ferengi marrying a non-Ferengi woman later in the series, and that'll confirm either one or the way or the other. But I'm pretty sure they would still expect them to follow tradition.
Is keeping them naked just another way to save money?
Could be.
I didn't think about that.
I mean, that sounds like a sexist joke in and of itself.
I just got it's like, as soon as I said could be, I was like, oh man.
I figured it was practical because whenever we see Ferenginar, it's shown as like a very rainy, swampy type place. So if you can't wear clothes, you're certainly not going to go outside. So on a practical level, not wearing clothes keeps them confined to the home where they want them to stay. So kind of like a captivity thing, like you take away shoes from prisoners that might escape and run away. Yep. It's gross on every level.
I think that is also, well, yeah. I mean, I think there were a couple of different allegories they were going for here, obviously, but that was another one of those Star Trek type examples of we need to take this to the most ridiculous extreme, or not even that ridiculous, honestly, because I mean, sure, there are places like that in this world where, I mean, there's similar types of restriction, but they're, especially like forcing women to cover themselves in a certain way. The opposite of that, to make it even more shocking
or men cover themselves.
Yes. Sigh. I mean, damn it. What was I going to say? For the American audience, for which is intended, it needs to be more shocking. Because the more conservative areas of this, we like, oh yeah, it's a great thing that they make their women cover up, but making them go naked, oh my God, that's so crazy, that kind of thing. But also, yes, in the practical sense of taking away their autonomy, with that. But I thought the joke that Steve was going for was the 30s, 40s comic of, women shop all the time, that thing. But
not Ferengi women, they don't shop, but except online and not for clothes. Maybe they can wear shoes. I don't know. Anyway, again, never mind. Quark and Pell have a really nice goodbye kiss moment. Like it won't work out between us, but we do respect one another. And Quark doesn't try to convince her to go home and stop breaking the law and all that. He's just like, yeah.
He's like, yeah, you can be feminist, just not around here.
Right.
Over there in your own space. Goodbye.
Yeah, go to the Gamma Quadrant, far away from me. So
that's
it doesn't
great for you. Goodbye.
It's a very respectful business kiss.
Business kiss, yeah.
Respected each other that much.
I don't want to give him much credit, but it's better than him trying to force her to go back to their planet and stand trial.
Yeah.
But only minimally.
I would advise you not to look up business kiss on Urban Dictionary, everybody.
What, is that are you serious? Is there like a thing?
I don't think so, but it surprised me. I want it to be now.
The business end.
Yeah, man.
Oh.
Yes, exactly.
Urban Dictionary does have an entry for business kiss, the act of French kissing someone while simultaneously giving them a handshake.
Oh, just a handshake.
I knew you guys were all differently. I knew where your heads were going. Because mine did too. But
wow.
Nope.
I'm pretty sure I've done that.
The context is, are you bringing Ryan to the party? No, I went to kiss him last night and did the business kiss. Okay, not hanging out with him anymore. Like he went to handshake her while she went to kiss, and they did both.
Okay.
Okay.
That's funny.
Yeah.
Okay. That makes more sense.
Not nearly as it's titillating as we were hoping.
I'm still going to attempt one next time I'm on a date.
Okay.
Report back.
I'll let you guys know.
Were you disappointed Quark lost the Gamma Quadrant profits at the end? Because I was.
Kind of.
I was, but he never really specified like a percentage that he would be getting paid. So he was probably going to be tricked anyway at some point. Just get that in writing.
I was wondering if, by the way he phrased it, meant that he got at least 1%. Because if he got at least 1%, that would be worth it, honestly, for the whole Quadrant's business.
Yeah. I think somehow I had that kind of that feeling that it wasn't going to work out. It's like that too good to be true kind of thing. It's like they did a good job of making me feel sympathetic to the point where I like Quark enough to want to see him get ahead. Usually, if he's not actually actively trying to hurt someone who seems good, that kind of thing. It seemed like that sort of growth in a way, but it also feels like that thing where they have to reset things to the way things are by the end of the episode kind of thing. So we can't see him too successful because
you can't set Quark up to get rich by season 4 because it would change the series too much. And he'd have to leave the station or something.
Oh, yeah.
There's a really nice scene between Dax and Quark at the end. Their friendship is nice. Even if it's also kind of creepy from one side.
Or both, in a way.
There's some gross earlobe action in this scene.
We didn't get the umox really in this episode. The ear massage that Ferengi do as a sexual thing.
That looks nice.
It's just another business transaction of sorts, or rather, it's just like a hey, it's a good, like this is an attaboy or something. Good job, Very nice.
My alternate episode was I wanted Pell to actually like stay and be in a relationship with Quark, and not to change who she was at all. Still like work, wear clothes, and do business, but how that would affect his standing in society and deal with the implications of that for episodes to come, instead of just like she leaves and we're all back to whatever.
Maybe get a throuple going with Dax, and some space.
Dax might be
future type relationship.
I thought you said a ferruple.
I thought a ferruple.
Yeah, better.
A ferruple. Yeah, I like that.
I'm not going to Urban Dictionary that term.
The only thing is that I really wished her voice wasn't as like, it was good in the beginning, and then you could hear that it was dropping or something, and it just really was grating to me.
Yeah.
I was going to say, just jokingly complain that wasn't very funny. Jemmy's alternate episode, because that was a good, that would have been a really good arc, but Megan saved it with the ferruple.
I didn't mean to say ferruple, but
yeah.
There you go.
That was the logical conclusion. The throuple would have been enough, that we're going to get there eventually.
Teamwork.
Yeah.
I had a couple more notes.
Okay.
At one point, I think they call Quark a little Ferengi, which just goes to show that even in the 24th century, short people will still be persecuted for being little. Or it was I don't know if it was, and they are smaller people, or if it was the condescending, oh, you're going to go do your little podcast tonight? I don't know if they meant it that way, or both. You're short and I'm being condescending to you.
Diminutive is the...
Diminutive?
Oh my God. They did it again. They were dropping that subtle seed right there the whole time.
It's interesting that it's such a long word for short.
Well, it's for the act of doing that is such a big process of like, I'm gonna
like the Lilliputians. I read books that aren't Star Trek.
What?
Yeah, or Star Wars. Oh yeah, there's Star Wars ones too. I wrote this sentence and I couldn't come up with a really good answer, but Ferengi treat their women worse than. I couldn't decide, like, where are they on the scale of, like, if they were on Earth, would they be the worse than every society here? I feel like there's some that are worse, but.
I kind of feel like we shouldn't start naming names unless we,
let's just make it a thought exercise for everybody. You're right. Let's not.
Yeah. We give, the email address Megan at IABD.
No, we always give Keith at IABD no matter what. Do they treat their women worse than Alabama citizen? I don't know.
I guess it was a match game question.
Middle Easterners.
All right. Beep. We're just we're
certain Middle Eastern societies that make the women wear the hijab and not drive and not go to school, and I think that's the comparison they're trying to make. I assume.
Right. That is what I was alluding to back then, but didn't want to get us killed. But
they treat their
all complaints go to Keith at IBD.
As always, their women worse than the guy on fries at McDonald's. Yeah, see there you go.
Wait, what?
The fry guys?
Yeah,
those little pom pom people.
Mm-hmm. They're very sexist.
Sexist? I didn't know.
Wow,
they are.
They seem fun, but yeah, when they get home, it's
pretty
and
bad.
they get a couple drinks in them. Forget it's.
Why do you think there's no fry girls?
There is. She has little pom-pom ears, like her.
Well,
no, that's a male that just likes to dress that way.
Well, they insist on making them wear cheerleader outfits. That's the whole.
Aren't the dollar menu fries or whatever that menu's called now fries? Those are the little kids, right?
This is probably taking a wrong turn there. So
Okay, any other notes before we get to the ranking?
I just heard McDonald's wants to sponsor.
Now they won't. Who is your shady character this week?
Probably Zach, I suppose.
Yeah, Zach. Yeah.
Megan?
Yeah, I'm going to agree.
Zach all the way across the board. Yeah, because Pell was shady for like good reasons. Like you can't blame her for her deception, whereas Zach, was the jerk. Yeah. But he always is in some way, even though he's Wallace Shawn. Who is your annoyance this week?
Quark.
Quark?
Yeah, I wanted him to be more, take a bigger stand with the whole Pell thing. But I knew he couldn't and wouldn't. But
That's kind of that's I think that I agree with that answer. Also with the weakening of him for that purpose.
Yeah.
They keeping him one step behind. He seemed to get there by the end. And I did like the way he was putting things together.
Maybe I should blame Dominion
bidding system.
Fontana.
Realty.
Dominion Carmen Fontana.
I'm with Megan. I think Rom, to me, a lot of that was just he feels out of character with the Rom we get to know later, but
That's good too. Yeah.
also he was just kind of a tool in this episode. So, which is part of why he didn't feel in character to me, because I like Rom or where he ends up anyway. Who are we having a drink with?
Because she's a lot of fun when she hangs out with the boys. Dax.
I was going to go with Dosai Norton.
Dax was my first thought.
Dax is mine as well. Keith's the only abstainer in this instance. I mean, this is the third time in 7 episodes I've chose Dax.
You're drinking buddies.
I guess. I mean, I do really genuinely love that character for so many reasons. And in this episode just seems like somebody you want to drink with, right? Yeah. Let's rank this episode. Let's start up against Invasive Procedures. Better or worse than the episode Invasive Procedures?
Well, I have to step back, right? Because I haven't watched all of them yet.
That is absolutely
somebody
fine.
has me doing Arts Fest and shows once a month.
Good jerk. I hope he doesn't make you prepare for some big 8th anniversary show.
Better, maybe. Yes. Well, yes.
I think so. Even though we liked a lot of that. Yeah. Initially, I was like, that was better. And then.
I think because of some of the inconsistencies with Rob's character and Quark being weakened and everything, I would put this below it. But not
No, I've actually changed my mind.
Close.
Nope. Under.
Now Keith's going under?
Yeah, I took a second to think about it. It was like a reflex. I had to actually kind of think through what happened in the the Invasive Procedure episode, but the John Glover and then like they did more there.
Yeah, that was a good episode. Yeah. Well, if we're going below, Steven, above that's the circle. That's one of the middle part of the trilogy.
Yeah, I wouldn't put it above that.
Okay. Keith, below Melora. Do we want to put it above or below Melora? That was last episode DS9.
I've almost
the
got
woman
it.
in the wheelchair.
Better.
I agree.
Yeah.
So that's easy enough with that ranking. Oops. Next week, Star Trek: The Next Generation: Force of Nature. While searching for a missing Federation medical transport, the Enterprise is accosted by 2 scientists from a nearby planet who claim that cumulative exposure to warp energy is weakening the fabric of space.
Wow.
Nothing about Spot in the episode description. Anyway, until next time, live long.
And you know what? Be yourself.
But if you save a lot of money by not wearing clothes, or rather by not letting your partner wear clothing, you will prosper.
And follow the rules of acquisition, and of course she will prosper.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?